if the goal of that person was to barbell bench press, if they said, Nick, this is my favorite movement of all time. It gets me out of bed. I just love barbell bench pressing.
Mhm.
Uh, Hypertrophy is great and strength is great, but all I want to do is just barbell bench press. Then I would approach that person similarly. So I would use the floor press perhaps, but then maybe I would put them on a bench and load a bar on a safety rack and have the bar right on their chest, and then have them do like an isometric in that end range that you're not getting with the floor press. So have
Mhm.
those elbows drift down a bit under the bench, press into the bar, and you can control the effort. You can do a 50% press, you can do a 75% press, you can ramp it up from a 50 to a 75. All these different parameters that we can work with, but at least we're getting stress on the tissue in that quote unquote painful range,
Mhm.
if that's where the painful range is. And then we just gradually kind of progress back to the bench press. I know I've done that a handful of times with athletes,
So would
and
you
it's
do that? So would you do that to kind of help with that situation? But then, like after that, then go to like the floor press or whatever to get the stimulus, like the stimulus we're after.
for sure. Yeah, I'd probably start with the floor press, get like the volume in there, get the
Mm-hmm.
heavy lifting in there, and then do the isometric stuff as like an accessory, and then eventually blend the two into a
Gotcha.
full bench press. Yeah, that's something that I found helpful, and I think that's a good kind of segue into the other thing that I wanted to ask. I guess ask how you approach it, and then I could say how I kind of approach it. Although I kind of just did, but how do we transition from one exercise to another? So maybe one
Yeah.
isn't working. So do we say, okay, we're going to stop cold turkey and we're going to start this, or how do we kind of gradually integrate a new exercise into someone's routine to not completely shock their system?
So the way I've done it with some athletes, and maybe if it's not jiving well with what you think, then maybe I'll learn something here. But what I usually like, let's say we're gonna go from conventional deadlift to sumo, and sumo's kind of like, oh shit, you never even been exposed to it. So it would be like, hey, let's start with sumo light, maybe a couple of light sets, just more technique based, learn technique, and then let's get our regular work with conventional. Once that technique starts to improve, let's say it's 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, however long it takes to kind of master that sumo, then I just start transitioning the workload. So it might be okay, one set doing sumo, the rest of it's conventional. Then now it's two sumo, one conventional, and then eventually until you get to a point where now you're just fully transitioned over. So that's usually how I typically kind of run it as far as getting people to get to different exercises.
Almost identical to what I do. I've had people say we're talking about
Yes.
say we're talking about a squat, back pain with a squat. What I would do is and we're talking like they can't do a goblet squat then because they have pain, so it's that sensitive. If we can't do any kind of squatting pattern, we would use like a hack squat or leg press or split squat for their main volume. But then maybe like during their warm up, I would have them do a box squat with an unloaded bar, just to kind of groove the pattern. Do 3 sets of that. We're not even coming close to fatigue. We're just showing the body, hey, it's okay to kind of groove this movement without pain. And then we do our loading in the comfortable exercise, and then we kind of progress those little warm up sets gradually, and maybe we put a little bit of weight on, or maybe we lower the box, and as it's being tolerated better and better, and we're still getting our volume from the feel good exercise variation. And then eventually, like you said, then we eventually blend the two, and we maybe do one one heavier set of the squats, and then 3 sets of the leg press, and then we kind of keep going like that. But the cool thing about that is, if there's ever a hiccup, we just take one step back because we went at it in a stepwise fashion. So you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of retrace your steps, and everyone is so different. That's why I haven't created the 6 steps to injury reduction template, because it doesn't exist because everyone is so different.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's that's how I would go about integrating a new movement, and it's cool that we both kind of do it the same way and have come about that through probably different paths.